very excited about the opposition. Is probably my favorite Magic card to play with.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's certainly not your favorite one to play against, I imagine. I recently got to relive the joy of opposition in a cube match, where I comboed it with Lingering Souls, much as Drew has done in his Legacy deck.
There you go. So Andrew Schneider, opposition-less, well, the card at the very least. He does have opposition in this match, Derrick Roper with Sneak and Show. Gonna try to do something powerful and unfair, which we surprisingly have not seen much of today under the camera.
There's been a lot of Shardless Bug in this room. That's the big thing I know. Shardless Bug, Merfolk, and Elves are the three of the more popular decks that I've seen in the field. I know you guys have seen multiple copies of, I think, all of them on camera at this point.
Elves rising in popularity after the win by Reed Duke last weekend in Philadelphia. So here we go. Derrick Roper's game plan is to assemble his combo, Show and Tell and or Sneak Attack, and one of his giant legendary creatures, Emrakul the Aeon's Torn, or Gristlebrand. So he's going to ponder.
Looks like he wants to throw those back, I think. Oh, he's... It looked like he was just throwing those back for a shuffle, and now he appears to be reconsidering. But he's shuffling, okay. Note that Derrick's on the play. It's a pretty sizable advantage for him, given that he's playing against the tempo list. It makes Andrew's Stifles, Dazes, much less effective than usual, as Andrew won't have the opportunity to put a creature into play before he has to start leaning on that counter magic. So Andrew's probably going to lead with a creature if he has one. Otherwise, he'll just continue to assume a pseudo-defensive posture.
And there you go, Misty Rainforest go. And he does have a Stifle in his hand.
Looks like his hand is Force of Will, Stifle, Young Pyromancer, 3 lands, and another card that I think looks like kind of like a Dismember. Not 100% on it. Not a great hand for this matchup, obviously. He basically just has a Force of Will or a Stifle. He doesn't have both, because he doesn't have a second blue card.
And Derrick Roper casts a Preordain. Looks like he put both on bottom there. Just continuing to dig, develop his hand.
He has an Emrakul and a Sneak Attack already in there. So once he gets to 5 mana, he's actually already threatening lethal. But he has a number of ways to get that down faster. As you mentioned, Show and Tell obviously does the trick. Lotus Petal can also let him skip a turn. And he has access to the Soul Lands, City of Traders and Ancient Tomb.
I've never heard them referred to that way.
The Soul Lands? Yeah.
This is S-O-U-L, right?
No, S-O-L. Soul Ring. Soul Lands. Soul Ring Lands.
Oh, okay. Still never heard that before. Meanwhile, Andrew Schneider plays a creature, Dark Confidant. That's a good one.
I think that's what I thought might be a Dismember. It is, in fact, a black card, but it's not that one. Dark Confidant's much better. Can help Andrew get more blue cards for his Force of Will, find more counter magic, kind of scare Derrick into, perhaps going a little slower. Like I said, Andrew's a little vulnerable right now, so that's a good thing.
Derrick's still digging here on turn 3. He casts a Ponder, and he's going to shuffle again.
Nice.
So
looking up, that's brutal. Says
he's gone with Ponder on turn 1, shuffle, Preordain on turn 2, put both on the bottom, Ponder on turn 3, shuffle again. The top of his library hasn't yielded much for Derrick Roper.
I believe he just drew a Gristlebrand off that shuffled Ponder. That's not especially helpful. If he was lacking a way to, get an Emrakul into play, odds are he doesn't have a way to get a Gristlebrand into play.
Dark Confidant reveals Dark Confidant. Andrew Schneider loses 2 life.
Wasteland is a strong one for Andrew. He can take Derrick off of his red source, leaving him just on blue, makes Sneak Attack a lot less threatening, makes his Dazes and Stifles also more threatening.
Attacks for 2 as well. Yes, I just looked over when that player called for Judge.
I was actually about to tease you on it. Andrew elects to go with a Dark Confidant over a Young Pyromancer here, and I like that call. The cards that are in his deck are much more threatening than 1/1 elemental tokens. If he draws an extra Force, an extra Daze, those cards can really open up the game. Even a Lightning Bolt is quite good, as it'll shorten up the clock, put Derrick on a much sterner one.
And as you said, cutting Derrick off of the red mana, so he's forced to play a Lotus Petal. Is he going to go with a Sneak Attack here with no second red mana source?
Yep. This is not actually that uncommon a play for Sneak and Show when your back's getting up against the wall. You want to just get a sneak attack into play. Very few decks in Legacy actually have answers to a sneak attack that's in play, so as soon as you find a red source or get to untap a red source that you already had to use, you can really just get going.
But Andrew uses the Force of Will on the sneak attack and then flips over 2 lands for his Dark Confidants.
Wasteland takes care of that Ancient Tomb. The Tomb having dropped Derrick down to 15, he's now going to 11 from a Dark Confidant attack, and
A
heating
third
up.
Dark Confidant.
Greatness at any cost.
Well, he can't actually lose, right? Even if he flips 3 Force of Wills in a row.
And he's already burned 1 Force, so he only has 2 left in his deck, so he can't even do that. Derrick will need to make Andrew go through 2 upkeeps in order to have a chance
Here we
of killing
go.
him.
Grim Lavamancer. Lightning Bolt.
Lightning Bolt's a good one, like we said
is.
already.
And another Dark Confidant.
The 4th Bobby.
So these Dark Confidants, I think each one has revealed the next one in the line, maybe? Or we missed one of them. But
Yeah, there's something very familial going on here.
The Lightning Bolt, though, really here. Attack for 6, 3 off the Bolt. Not quite enough to finish it this turn.
No, but it means Derrick can't use that Ancient Tomb he just played. It's basically the fact that he revealed Lightning Bolt is a wasteland.
Yes. So Andrew Schneider in the driver's seat here with his Grixis Delver deck versus Sneak and Show.
He wants to go ahead and deploy this Grim Lavamancer. That's a smart play. Even if... Well, actually, I guess it doesn't really matter that much.
No,
if he was at 16, he would be able to survive an Emrakul attack and still bolt his opponent to death. But because he was at 12, that's not really that relevant.
Yeah, that was a rough game for Derrick.
Yeah, it did very little other than reveal what he was playing to Andrew. That was about all he accomplished. He really bricked off on red sources there, didn't have a show and tell, couldn't get a sneak attack into play especially quickly. He played around days by waiting until he did, but then he just wound up getting caught by the Force of Will that had been there all along.
Yeah, we saw him digging with 2 Ponders and a Preordain. He found his combo pieces, but didn't really find the support cards.
Yeah, it was basically just too slow a combo
Yeah.
from Sneak and Show to get underneath Grixis Delver, and Andrew just used those bobs, milked them for all the cards he needed, just deployed an army very quickly. Why don't we move to the sideboard? I'll go over Sneak and Shows because it's some pretty basic shenanigans going on in here.
Shenanigans.
Yeah, he has access to Leyline of Sanctity, which is generally a pretty good card against hand disruption. However, the Grixis Delver deck doesn't really run as much of it as Manny decks do. Most decks have like a lot. The Grixis Delver deck only has the Cabal Therapies Rick you'll get to. He also has access to Blood Moons. Those are very good against some of these tempo decks, but not good against Grixis Delver, as we saw in the finals of the Cincinnati Open. You can resolve a Blood Moon and very easily die to a flurry of Pyromancers, Gitaxian Probes, and Lightning Bolts. It's not hard at all. And beyond that, he has access to Pyroclasm. That's pretty reasonable, actually. It clears out literally every creature in Andrew Schneider's deck.
That's true.
For 2 mana. So I imagine he'll be bringing those in. Some other cards he has, but probably won't be using. 2 Through the Breach, 2 Echoing Truth, a Jace the Mind Sculptor, and 2 Flusterstorm. The Flusterstorms are kind of interesting. If they were a little closer to Spell Pierce, I would like them in this matchup because you can use them to kind of break up some of Andrew's interactions. But as is, it's pretty difficult to slide a Flusterstorm into Grixis Delver. I like them a little more against Rug Delver, where their disruption spells are, non-existent. They're just playing basically some cantrips.
Okay, so that's what Derrick Roper's going to be trying to do in game number 2. Andrew Schneider, well, he can bring in some more counter spells against the combo deck. He has the 4th Force of Will and 2 Pyroblasts, for sure. 2 Flusterstorms, maybe, maybe not. I mean, he's not going to bring this in, but I just love that he's got this here.
Oh, yeah.
One Izzet Staticaster.
One
Is
Izzet
that for the
Staticaster.
mirror match?
I can only imagine, although it's a really awkward card for the mirror match, considering
Because you kill your
you
own
would
elementals.
kill your own elementals.
But if you
yeah.
fall in horribly behind...
Right. I guess the theory is, how could you have elementals if your opponent had so many? You'd have probably had to use them or they'd be dead. I know some people have been boarding Electrickery, which I think is just deranged. I'm a big fan of Fork Bolt, personally. It's obviously not what you want when you're, facing 5 elemental tokens, but it's real handy at getting rid of anything early, like a Delver that flips can be tricky, and Electrickery won't always be able to handle that, obviously. And Stoneforge Mystic dies to a Fork Bolt, which is very relevant. So I like Forked Bolt as that flexible slot. Andrew going with Is It Staticaster? It's a bold choice. I'm going to be real curious as to how it works out for him over the course of the day.
Mm-hmm. And Andrew also has access to 4 Cabal therapies. He could certainly use that to break up the combo pieces in Derrick Roper's deck. And as we've seen with other Grixis Delver decks, Cabal Therapy plays very nicely with Young Pyromancer.
Oh, yes, it does. One of the most interesting things I think about Cabal Therapy against specifically Sneak and Show, the Sneak and Show is so linear for the tempo deck to be facing that you can usually just identify what could kill you. For example, Andrew Schneider, in the previous game, did he really have to worry that much about a show and tell? Only if it put in a sneak attack, like the hasted creature was going to be the most dangerous to him. So he can, go ahead and name sneak attack if he really wants to. Or if the show and tell coming out quickly is the threat, he can name show and tell. He's got a lot of versatility with what he names because his counters match up very specifically against what Derrick's going to have. Derrick mulligans. In Andrew's hand, I only saw a Daze. I'm sure there are other cards, but that's all I caught. He appears to have kept. I think I might have spotted a Bob in there as well. Perhaps he's hoping for a repeat of game 1. Just slip a Bob into play very early, not die on turn 3, and then go to town from there.
Not die on turn 3, or sooner.
Yeah, that's very true. Sneak and Show is capable of functionally killing you.
Yeah,
on
not necessarily
turn 2.
Dead. AJ and I talked about this earlier, how Emrakul doesn't quite kill you, but
no, he just
eats
embarrasses
all of your
you.
permanents. Annihilates you. Okay, so Derrick Roper off the mulligans, going to draw his 6-card hand.
One of the things I like about Sneak and Show in Legacy is it's a deck that mulligans very well. You need, generally very few cards to actually kill your opponent. Just 3 mana, show and tell, and a giant creature is actually capable of killing someone. So, you can mulligan to as few as 4 cards and still actually just kill someone outright.
If they're the right cards.
Right.
And as we saw in game 1, if they're not the right cards, you might just end up looking at the top few cards of your library over and over again to no avail.
Yeah, but we all like to do that.
Well, then you should cast Sensei's Divining Top.
Derrick leads a fetch land and declines to crack it. He's in the classic catch-22 against the tempo deck. I really need a dual land, but I don't want to fetch it now because it might get wastelanded. But then he might stifle me if I wait. Andrew leaving open a mana, clearly threatening a stifle.
Yeah, Stifle's an interesting card for this matchup. You can certainly catch a fetch land. Sometimes you just catch a sneak attack because the deck runs so light on mana. Sometimes it's forced to use a Lotus Petal, to generate that red mana, and then they sneak attack and they don't have any more red mana.
It's very true. Andrew draws a Brainstorm.
No 3rd land for Derrick Roper.
It's interesting because he has one. He has a 2nd Ancient Tomb in his hand.
But two Ancient Tombs doesn't really gain him much.
No, it doesn't, but it could matter for playing against Spell Pierce and Flusterstorm. Those are the 2 instances. The only reason he would really want to hold an Ancient Tomb here is if he's planning to throw it back with a Brainstorm, effectively turning it into a fresh card. As I am no expert Sneak and Show pilot myself, I can't really comment on the efficacy of that play, but I know it's certainly important to hold cards for Brainstorm. A lot of people in Legacy make the mistake of playing out too many things when they really should be holding them.
Well, now he plays it out, but still no action.
Brainstorm in the end step for Andrew Schneider. That's going to probably flip his Delver. I'm going out on a limb here, but it seems likely. Note the favorable interaction with the fetch land he's got going on as well. He can, in fact, flip the Delver with an instant or sorcery he doesn't even want, shuffling it away before he would ever have to draw it. Using Scalding Tarn to effectively scry 1 with a Delver of Secrets is a mainstay of Legacy Delver decks.
Yeah, I think he wants all these cards, though. We see the Jataxian Probe. I want him to cast the Jataxian Probe so we can see what's going on with Derrick Roper's hand.
The fact that he revealed it probably means he's going to. It's obviously a free roll reveal as it tells Derrick nothing about Andrew's hand, given that it replaces itself immediately. Pays 2 life. We see 2 sneak attacks, a show and tell, a spell pierce, a Gristlebrand, and a Daze. Alright, so Derrick could have show and telled in Gristlebrand last turn. If he really wanted to. He would have had the mana to pay for a spell pierce, but he could have had some issues especially if Andrew had the Stifle for the fetch land, which we, not having the luxury of seeing Andrew's hand, know is, I believe, actually there. So Derrick displaying some patience here.
You call it patience, I call it not going for the win.
The issue here is because you're playing against Grixis Delver, it's a deck that has very few cards that cost more than 1 mana. It only has a handful of cards that even cost 2, and it has none that cost 3. So Andrew has 3 lands in play. The odds of him ever tapping out really, really low at this point. So if he has a Stifle, he's very likely to cast it, no matter when you crack the fetch line, and the longer you wait, the more likely he is to draw a Stifle if he didn't have one. So that's a dangerous spot.
Derrick really missed his opportunity on his first turn to crack that fetch land, playing around the wasteland, but now he's put himself into a bind. May have to walk right into a Stifle.
And we see Andrew has a Dark Confidant in his hand, chooses not to cast it. He knows that he can kill his opponent with this Delver of Secrets. And he has a hand full of Permission Disruption. He just needs to not lose. That's his primary goal.
This is such a weird legacy game, where the combo deck has his combo, but he's just afraid to go for it. What is he looking for? He's just looking for
another
a natural
land.
Blue mana source.
Yeah, he's tired. He's going for it, and Andrew immediately snaps him off. He could also have found potentially a force of will to counter Stifle if he was really hard up for it.
He does have a force of will, but maybe the show and tell is his only other blue card.
I believe he also has a Spell Pierce that we saw in the Jataxian Probe.
Okay.
And he does have 2 mana to actually pay for a Spell Pierce. Misdirection was also another card he could draw, as he could activate his Ancient Tomb for mana, and then crack the fetch land with the deal 2 on the stack. And that way he could Misdirection Stifle to the deal 2, which is
Here we
cute.
go. He's going to use his force of will.
He's pitching Daze.
Daze.
Andrew gonna fight back here. I'm assuming he's going for Pyroblast, as Spell Pierce will not really do the trick. And really, it's very important that this fetch line not resolve, as he wants to keep Derrick forced into a top decking situation.
And that's it. Pyroblast seals the deal, counters the force of will, so Stifle counters the fetch land activation.
Another Daze for Schneider.
Another flipped Delver of Secrets and Sectile Aberration.
Paying 2 life for a probe. Andrew's going to see basically all the cards he saw before. Looks like we've added a Sneak Attack and an Emrakul.
All right, Andrew Schneider with Grixis Delver in the driver's seat, and there you go.
Yeah.
Derrick Roper did not find the land he needed and extends the hand.
All right, well played by Andrew Schneider. He was very cautious. He didn't give Derrick any openings, and Derrick, he fell into that spot.